It's 9 now.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Suckling on the teat of tech.
With Paul Brislen.
Yes, Paul Brislen on Twitter as well. G'day there, Paul.
Good morning, how are you?
Not bad, not bad. Today it's wars of iPads or iSlates.
Yes, slate wars.
Slate wars, and also virtual net neutrality wars as well.
Yes, there's a bit of warring going on, isn't it, really?
This time Google is under a lot of scrutiny for perhaps turning evil.
Well, it depends who you read, of course, which of the views it is. This is all about an issue called net neutrality. And in the past, companies like Google have argued that the telcos, the guys that build the networks themselves, shouldn't be allowed to, in the US in particular, should not be allowed to decide which sorts of packets get delivered faster than other sorts of packets. So their big fear, of course, is that one of the big telcos in the US signs a deal with Microsoft, for example, to make Bing more efficient on the network, so that Bing, the search engine from Microsoft, starts to become really usable and Google becomes really unusable, and people start leaving in droves and start using Bing. So Google's long argued that telcos should not be allowed to do this kind of thing, and that it's a bit of a nightmare. The telcos have long argued that, in fact, that's not what they're planning to do, but instead what they're looking at is things like, video services. You know, if you want to have video delivered properly over the internet, you need to treat it differently to plain text or video, or to websites or to other forms of data. So what they're doing is saying, well, we shouldn't have net neutrality. We should go the other way, and we should be able to differentiate on the different types of traffic. And just the last week, Google and Verizon in the US have gone to the FCC, the governing body for all this kind of thing in the US, with a proposal to basically differentiate on some traffic. And so you've got some people saying, oh, Google, you've sold out, how dare you? And others saying, well, this is a good practical move because it actually addresses some of the issues. And the FCC saying, well, it's really just a proposal anyway, because we've asked everybody to come up with some proposals for some new ideas. So it's a bit of a bun fight.
So the issue here is this balance between networks needing to manage data in order to make sure that most users have a good experience using their network. Right,
versus the commercial danger that I come up with a really cool search engine, but Google's already signed a deal with somebody else, and my search engine never gets a look in because of a commercial arrangement between two other parties, which would be quite unfair.
Now, Google for a long time has been a big proponent of net neutrality for traditional broadband connections, but there seems to be a double standard between old school internet and this new school wireless internet, which a lot of people are saying will be the future. Most people will consume the internet through wireless devices.
Through a wireless device. And Google, interestingly, in this proposal from Google and Verizon, they've said, yes, we'd like to have this clear and transparent process for fixed line, but for wireless broadband, we don't think there should be any regulation at all. Now, I personally think that's probably an interesting move. It's possibly a step too far. I don't care what transport network my data is delivered over. I just want the best experience possible.
Yeah.
And I'm fully aware that, having watched some of the bun fights going on over the last few weeks here, that some users require different types of internet connections to others. In effect, what we're seeing is a maturing of the internet to the point where now different users use it in quite different ways to other users. So you've got the file sharers who have quite a different profile to somebody who just wants to look at newspapers online and get the odd email and send the odd photo. They're quite different again to the gamers. There are various different types of customer, and they have quite contradictory requirements for what their network will provide. So that is a big issue for network builders all around the world. They're all struggling to cope with this. There are various ways of doing it, but this net neutrality debate has become quite polarized quite quickly, and is causing a lot of angst.
Would you say that the world is looking at this American situation, the Google-Verizon situation at the moment, and seeing what comes out of it, and that might be the benchmark for how this issue is treated elsewhere in the world?
Well, yeah, in a large part, that's probably quite right, because the Americans do tend to lead the rest of the world in terms of regulation of this kind of thing. You know, the internet is still ostensibly run by the U.S. government. It's devolved power and authority, but it's still a product of the U.S. Defense Force. So, they do see it as something that they control. So if they start making rules and requirements for American carriers, that will start to filter down through the rest of the world, I think.
Yeah.
Because usually the Europeans will go the other way and have the complete opposite rule, of course, thus making it really awkward for anybody who's not in Europe or America. But we muddle through these things. It'll be interesting to see which way the debate goes, because it's a debate that has to happen. We've got to figure out how to make this thing work for everyone. And there are so many competing interests in it. There are the purist technology people who have one particular view. There are the commercial entities that have another point of view. There's the legal state. There's the regulatory state. There's a whole raft of different areas all coming to a bit of a crunch point with this one issue.
Okay, on to another war now. Many companies over the past few months have been threatening to come out with an iPad competitor.
The iPad killer.
Dell have landed with something.
They have. It's not really an iPad killer, though, I have to say. It's something quite different. It's called the Dell Streak. It is it's probably larger than an iPhone, but smaller than an iPad, for those of you who are familiar with such things. The beauty of it is it runs Google's operating system, Android, which means it is you can download applications, you can do a lot of things with it, and it is an in-between model. So on paper, it looks kind of clumsy. It's like a very big cell phone, and you can use it as a cell phone, but you don't want to be seen holding that up to your ear. But at the same time, it's probably quite a bit smaller than an iPad. A lot of people have disregarded it because of that. Price-wise, it's also quite expensive in the US, where it's just gone on sale at $600 US, so it's as expensive as an iPad. But I think there's probably really quite a useful niche there, because I've seen people using PlayStation Portables, the little PSP devices, as a multimedia platform.
Yeah. Watching
movies, playing games, surfing the net when they're in a Wi-Fi connection. This Dell Streak basically fills that niche as well, and I think it's marvelous. I think the more of these kinds of devices we see out on the market, the more you'll find uses for them. And it's not necessarily a case of one size fits all at all.
No.
This thing might be the perfect companion to an iPad, or you may use one of these and a laptop and a cell phone. There's a raft of choices here. There's something for everybody. So I think it's a good sign. It's a good sign that Android's getting into this market, and Dell knows its business and will be feverishly after the mass consumer market. So I imagine this is just the start of something that should benefit all of us.
Cool. Look forward to the future, as always, Paul. Thanks very much.
Anytime.
On Twitter, twitter.com/Paul